Hmm. There we go. All right. Hello, people who are kind of existing out there in the chat space. I am just getting set up. Please bear with me for a moment.
Okay, you have 4 minutes to start. We don't want to start until I have a lot of people want to shop and go right after the panel starts.
Yep, I'm just getting all set up. So put a link into the chat there, and you can find a digital copy of the character sheet. Apologies for anyone who's expecting Sal. I'm actually Tack. I'm sitting in on this panel for him. And I'm not used to doing a lot of this. All right, so I'm gonna wait to actually get too far into this, giving people a couple minutes to like wander and stuff. Actually, my panel hasn't even started, so here's me jumping the gun. Hi, Nathan. Thank you for being here and helping. Appreciate everything you guys have done to set this up. I mean, the only thing that could have made doing the Saturday morning cartoon RPG better was if we had like actually set it up to do it on Saturday morning. So Toonpocalypse is an RPG game system. However, it is what's considered to be a rules light system. It has a heavier emphasis on like just role playing and story structure than it does on very heavy stat usage and rolling. So basically, a little bit of history here. Myself and Sal actually own a publishing company that produces games and comics and things like that. And we wanted to do a RPG system for people who wanted an introductory system, who wanted to be able to get into the fun of role playing, but were a little overwhelmed by the concept of tons of stats and tons of rules and stuff. You actually can play a talking rock. In one of our test games, one of my favorite characters that someone played was actually a talking cheeseburger. They played a cheeseburger who was constantly going through an existential crisis, wondering whether or not they were actually a cheeseburger. And that was like half the fun of that whole character. And he did like a Meatwad style voice the entire time. So, forgive me, I may repeat things just, as people come in and out of the chat, and stuff like that. So first off, if you guys look down at my little profile icon here, at any given time, this is the address where you can download the character sheet if you decide to go along in this process with me. I'm going to hop over to my copy of Toonpocalypse here for a second, and I'm just going to show you guys. It's a very rules-light system. The only dice you need are D6s, and most people have access to D6s, six-sided dice, in their house, kind of thing. The main way that this system works is, my wife likes to describe it as like ordering at Chipotle. You start with a big thing, then you make a couple choices and narrow down and customize your character a little bit more. So in this system, which is based off of 80s, 90s cartoons and sort of parodies all the archetypes and tropes of those kinds of things, what you do is you pick from what we call one of 6 archetypes and then narrows down your choices. So I'm going to explain the archetypes real quick. So, for example, I like Princess Glitter Sparkle. So, the 6 archetypes that exist inside this game, they are just like placeholder titles. They're not, meant to be exclusive to any concepts. But your 6 basic types are Sentai, Organizational, Slapstick, Chosen One, Last of Their Kind, and Just an Ordinary Teen. Now, these aren't literal things, but are just kind of a grouping of different types of abilities that we wanted to put in the game. For example, the Sentai archetype would be the sort of thing that would cover characters that are like Sailor Moon style characters or Power Ranger style characters, or characters who do a lot of friendship, love, magic based teamwork type stuff going on. Organizational characters, Sentais. Organizational characters cover people who would be part of a group that has like an infrastructure. So, for example, it covers your sort of G.I. Joe and Mask and things like that. Actually, I'm one of the people that runs Furry Mystery Box, and we also used to run a convention called Fur Reality, and one of our things every year was to create a new game for release at the convention, and this was actually last year's game. So organizational characters are things like G.I. Joe, Mask, characters who would be cops, or anything where you would have spies, things like that, where you would rely on a network. Here you can see a parody of like a Ghostbusters style character, and fits very well into the organizational archetype. The next one, probably one of my favorites, is the Slapstick. Slapstick covers your, Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny, Animaniacs kind of deal. Actually, you can see here the Fleischers are very much a parody of that kind of thing. These are characters that are sort of reality defying, doing ridiculous, crazy things. One of my favorite abilities is called Wait What, and that's just, I'll explain that a little bit in a minute. Yeah. So, if brief sidestep on animation history, there's an era that a lot of people think of like that Cuphead style. It's called Fleischer era animation, and this is like a parody of the Animaniacs in like Fleischer. They're called the Fleischers. So slapsticky characters. Last of their kind characters. Yep, this is my one of my favorites, the emo edgelord bear. Last of their kind characters tend to have a lot of magic and destiny, and they tend to be characters that often relegate to like a support role and tend to boost people around them. And you see here another last of their kind sort of parody. Chosen One is a really good catch-all character. It kind of covers your sort of He-Man and She-Ra kind of characters. A lot of superheroes could easily fall into this category. It tends to be very good for characters who very attack heavy. And then one of the more funny titled ones, Just an Ordinary Teen. Scroll down to Just an Ordinary Teen. Covers characters who themselves may not be especially magical or powerful, but tend to affect the story a lot. Really good example of this would be things like Scooby-Doo or Rescue Rangers or things like that. So here's how it works. To answer your question really quickly, you can make your character anything for any archetype. What's really going to happen is choosing your archetype and choosing your customizations is really just a question of what abilities you want your character to have. So with the system being far more related to storytelling over heavy rules usage, oh, pardon me, my puppet's going a little bit crazy. With being more about the storytelling and comedy than it is about heavy rules. Really, it's going to come down to what abilities you want to have your character have. So I'm going to walk through doing a couple different characters for a moment and sort of give you an introduction to how this works. So I've got a few pre-made characters here, or some art already. What sounds fun to go through? We could do one of our Sentais. We could do our Ghost Hunter, our G.I. Joe style character. Got our Chosen Ones. All right, so I'll tell you what. Let's do a just an ordinary teen here for a second, since we're sort of going with the jinkies. So stats in this game are extremely simplified. A character only has 3 stats, and it's going to be a breakdown of 3 different numbers. This is going to sound like a weird explanation here, but there's a sort of a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing that goes on with this. There are 3 stats: body, mind, and spirit. And when you create your character, you get a 3, a 2, and a 1. And you're going to place a 3, a 2, and a 1 in your stats. And so, for example, here I'm going to go ahead and we're going to name our character. Let's name her Jinkies. Okay. We'll name her Jinkies. All right. So when we do our stats, I'm going to go ahead and give her 3 in mind. Probably 2 in spirit. And then 1 in body. Now, there's stuff you can do over the course of creating a character that would allow you to, alter the stats and things like that. But this is just like a starting point for the character. Oop, my puppet went a little bit crazy there. This is just a starting point for everything. The way this works is when you are rolling against an enemy, enemies will come in one of three types. They will be either a body type, a mind type, or a spirit type enemy. And so consequently, you're going to be strong against one of those types of enemies, medium against one of those types of enemies, and then weak against one of those enemies. You'll always be able to potentially beat a character in any of those, but this is just like your starting strengths. In terms of how the game plays, your stat also determines the number of dice that you roll. And without getting too far into that, because that's the panel later on, but basically, the higher the stat, the more dice you're going to get to roll. So I get to roll 1 dice for, thank you. You get to roll 1 dice for body, in this case, 3 dice for mind, and 2 dice for spirit. You can have situations where you'll be able to roll more dice than that. So you probably want to have 6 dice or so handy. Yes, actually, Sal will be running a campaign of this. It's actually going to be. Is it going to be the Breakfast Lords? Yeah, it's going to be the Breakfast Lords, which is the default campaign that comes in the book, which is sugary sweet. So
Giving away my...
I'm not saying anything. All right. So, yep, Breakfast Lords. So when it comes to making your character, you've set your stats. Characters have a default amount of health and energy, and though there's some choices you can make later on in the process that will change things. I'm going to go through this the really simple way, which is just using the default. You get 20 health. And you get 15 energy. And then you get 1 fate point. Now, fate point is stat that's going to change over the course of the game. Basically, any fate points you have allow you to re-roll once. So let's say you're at the climax of the game and you're just about to beat the boss and you're like, oh no, I totally failed that roll. You can use up a fate point and you can re-roll that. Or I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, you can actually add a dice to certain situations. So, pardon me, I need a sip of my coffee. Unfortunately, my little avatar doesn't have a coffee animation. Okay, so this is sort of the default, quick and easy. It's a lot faster to do than I'm doing because I'm sidestepping and doing conversational bits here. But, takes 2 seconds, pick 3 stats, give yourself your default health and energy. Now, here's where it gets fun. Species. You can literally put anything you want here. This is where you can put sentient cheeseburger or rock or anything. It doesn't matter. It's like a lot of cartoons where you just it doesn't matter. Just put whatever is going to be fun here. It really comes down to your choices later on in this process. So for our character, Jinkies, let's make her, a really curious teen. I know. How about we make her meddling? Meddling have 2 Ds. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. All right. So this is pretty universal across all characters here. Now, here's one of the things where the system gets really ridiculous. She is part of Mystery Gang, and it's groovy, and they'll have a van later on. So here's where this system is really weird and different. We wanted to make a system that was really easy to get into, really easy to understand, but also if you are a person who is into more advanced gaming, still have something interesting for you to do, even if it was... even if you're an advanced gamer who's like, heavy D&D, Pathfinder kind of stuff. So one thing this system does is it uses keywords. And keywords are, for lack of a better word, kind of a Mad Libs thing here. When you run into certain situations, you will have bonuses and you will have negatives against things. and keywords are also used to generate enemies and situations. So while there is a campaign, and Sal will be running that campaign later this afternoon, at some point you may be facing, just for example, a dragon, okay? But because of keywords, someone may have the keyword toast. So all of a sudden, instead of fighting a dragon, you're fighting a toast dragon. I'm not actually familiar with the mask system, but in terms of your question, yes, it is kind of open-ended. So, for example, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and pick some keywords. By default, characters have 2 positive keywords and 2 negative keywords. And these can be literally anything. Your moderator may set some rules or guidelines on what things mean and how they interpret words. So, for example, you can't be like, hey, I want my positive keyword to be air, and I get a bonus every time I'm breathing. You'd be like, no, you can't do that. I'm sorry, that's too vague. But you could pick like the keyword air, and the moderator might say, okay, here are the situations in which that's applicable. So what are some keywords that would be that's a really good example. Curious and clumsy are good words. They can basically be any kind of
They have to be nouns.
noun. Well, you can have adjective ones, like curious and clumsy. Sorry, talking to Sal here. Side. So, for example, let's stick with nouns for the moment. So, what are some positive ones? So, what would be? Go with mystery and masks. Okay. And what would be some good negatives? Oops. Let's say real estate investors and abandoned parks. So she likes mysteries and is good against masks, and she doesn't like real estate investors and abandoned parks. So now that we have that, let's do our archetype. Now, again, I describe this as being something kind of equivalent to like ordering food at Chipotle. I mean, no matter what you order at Chipotle, you're getting Chipotle. So really, it's kind of a, do you want your food in the form of a bowl, a basket, or whatever? So in this case, we are picking our archetypes. And the process I'm going to follow through here is going to be the same no matter what archetype you pick. It's just going to be your choices have changed. So we are jumping to just an ordinary teen. Now, just an ordinary teen, let's give her that archetype. Pardon me.
Your character doesn't have to be a teenager.
Yeah, and yeah, to be clear, you don't actually have to be a teenager. Just an ordinary teen is just kind of a title. Yeah, that'd probably be a good example. They're kind of like picking D&D classes. They're just a little more open and broad and vague. There's actually quite a bit of overlap between the archetypes, which I'll explain in a moment when I get down to power set customizations. So just an ordinary teen. I've picked an archetype. In the book, you can see here's sort of just an explanation of the kinds of characters that covers. Now, no matter what archetype you pick, you get to choose 2 customizations. And customizations are really where the pick and choose thing starts to diversify your character. So each of these is an ability, a customization, and some of them will have an energy cost and some of them don't. Having an energy cost just means that when you're playing the game, you may have to use up some of your energy points. That's usually something that's reserved for more powerful things, often with things that are combat oriented or give you great advantages in the situation. Some stuff has no energy cost. So, for example, Crazy Prepared. Having Crazy Prepared doesn't actually cost any energy. It just gives you a bonus starting thing at the beginning of the session. But, for example, someday this will come in handy. The character has an obscure talent declared at the beginning of the game, and at any point, including during combat, the player may resolve a task by using their obscure talent. For example, turns out I'm a world-class bubblegum blower, and at some point during the course of the session, I can actually use that weird obscure talent, and it will give me a situational bonus. And then I just have to use up some of my energy for that. So for this character, I'm going to go ahead and pick a couple of customizations. I'm going to pick As Seen on TV, which the character may spend 1 energy point when finding a new item. They may then roll to add 1 effect, combat or non-combat, and add 1 keyword to the item. Because I'm a character who doesn't inherently have a lot of powers, I'm going to favor things that give me items and bonuses like that. So I'm going to put my customizations As Seen on TV. And now I find it personally useful if you're making your character to write down a note if you're not super familiar with the ability. So for example, in this case, I'm going to put As Seen on TV, 1 energy point, add keyword, and ability to item. That's only for my own sake, so I don't have to keep jumping back to the book. So that's 1 customization. And then let's go with Genre Savvy. The character may spend 1 energy point to obtain a piece of information about a place or situation. This is really handy to have a character who's like, hey, I know about this abandoned park. This was that park that, shut down because too many orphans got their heads cut off or something like that. And the moderator can pass information to the player character on stuff like that. So I'm going to go with Genre Savvy, energy point. And thank you for tapping through Windows. Energy point to learn about place or enemy. So those are my customizations. And someone else playing the same archetype could pick entirely different customizations, and their character will play out over the course of the game. Basically, in terms of the system, it's very loose. It's very rules light. These are just kind of guide points to say what characters can and can't do over the course of doing the game session. Now, here's one thing you can do. Let's say I have a third ability that I really want. I'm going to call it Chekhov's gun. And anyone who knows about writing, Chekhov's gun is a term where something is useful and it's introduced early in the story, and then later on the story turns out that you actually end up getting to use it. So I really want this Chekhov's gun ability, but I've picked 2 customizations. I can actually pick a hindrance for my character, and that will allow me to have a third customization. So I'm going to start by giving myself Chekhov's gun. And I'm just going to put that there. Chekhov's gun, and then my notes. I get to start with an item. Yeah. So I really want this third customization. So I'm going to have to take a hindrance for my character. Now, down here are 4 different example hindrances. Pardon me, I really need a drink. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so here's some hindrances. I'm actually going to scroll up so you guys can see that. In this particular case, for the just an ordinary teen archetype, I can take duties, weak, it was a mask, or major compulsion. And in this particular case, duties are, for example, your character starts with 5 less energy points than they would normally have, and the moderator gives you a task that you have to complete over the course of the game in order to get those energy points back for the day. And that can be like literally anything, like dispatching 3 of a certain type of enemy, or collecting 2 items, or whatever it is. It's basically the equivalent of the character has a job or chores or something like that. Weak, the character is not super good at combat, so they take negatives to all their rolls. That would actually be a really good hindrance for this kind of character, but I can't not do the one. I mean, like come on, how can I not do it was just a mask? Okay, so after battle has ended, you must roll a die. If it comes up with 5 or 6, then it turns out the enemy was just in a costume and a real enemy is revealed. The new enemy is the same level as the randomly generated enemy. So basically, you may not have actually fought a real guy. It turns out that they were something else. So I need to take that. So I'm going to take it was just a mask. If you think that one's great, Glenn, my personal favorite is actually in the organizational and Sentai types. It's called Nemesis. And at any given moment after you've completed a battle situation, your nemesis may show up to like gloat and attack you. So it's pretty fun. All right, so that took me several minutes, but this is just because I was explaining everything really quickly. So you could see if you wanted to do this fast, you just pick one of 6 archetypes, bam, choose 2 customizations, bam, choose a third one if you want to take a hindrance. I personally love hindrances in this game system because it encourages role-playing, encourages more hilarious story stuff. I'm going to give a really funny side example here for a moment. But when we were doing one of our playtesting sessions, I chose the Nemesis and I created Lord Sparkleheart, who's like a My Little Pony character, as my Nemesis. And then when we were playing, one of my friends, who turns out was a brony, decided to play a pony character over the course of the campaign. And when my Nemesis triggered, he just goes, "Dad?" And we all just sort of like stared for a moment and ran with it. So it turns out like his dad was my Nemesis, and just that kind of ridiculous sort of situation is like the kind of role playing that's encouraged with the game system, where you just, it's fun and amusement over like hard stats, and I have a +6 mace, got +6 against ogres, and just, yeah. All right, so we have our archetype and our customizations, and now we get power sets. So whatever archetype you picked has access to different custom power set customizations. And just like the previous step, you just pick 2. It's just straightforward. Pick 2 from each of these categories. So the categories that just an ordinary teen gets are the power of friendship, improvisation, and destiny. Hey, that looks familiar. So I'm going to go ahead and just do these really quickly. So let's go with power of friendship, guardian angel. Okay, so I'm going to do angel. And with the guardian angel, if an ally saves a fails a saving throw, you can make a saving throw as well. If you succeed, you pull the other character out of the way. If you fail, you take the damage instead. It is a physical book. It is available on the website underneath my little icon thing here. There are, however, digital downloads and stuff that you can grab, the character sheets, the enemy sheets, quick start guides, things like that. If you check out the website, there's more info on it right there. So I'm going to take Guardian Angel, where I get to do a saving throw for a friend, and I'm going to go ahead and take Protect Friends. I'm going to do a character who's very heavily emphasized on her buddies. So Protect Friends is a really useful one. When an ally is damaged, this character may attack the enemy as a free action and does not count as my attack action for that turn. So and I didn't. I would just write smaller. I actually wouldn't write the little notes for myself, but I'm just doing that for the sake of this. Also, in real life, I have massive handwriting, and that would probably be exactly what I did. Okay, so I picked 2 power set customizations for friendship, the power of friendship. I almost said friendship is magic. Improvisation. So let's go. How about I saw this in a movie? So I saw this in a movie. You may use the ability of any other player on your team. The difficulty roll has a -3 penalties to success. So basically, I can copy whatever someone else on the team can do. I just kind of copy it in a sucky way. So okay, so that, and then oh, how can I not do this? Okay, so this is probably one of my favorite abilities. It's called wait, what? And so the character make a quick spirit check in order to make a quick teleport from one location to another, such as passing through an opening, a door, or coming out of an unexpected one nearby. Both must be freely accessible in line of sight. I mean, that is literally like the definition of the sequence where the characters are running back and forth through the doors. It's also, if you're playing like a Bugs Bunny style character, it'd be that moment where, you know, someone takes the pot lid off the pot and all of a sudden the character like pops out kind of thing. It's quick situational teleportation that, you know, isn't ridiculously useful, but is pretty damn fun. So I'm going to go what? And oops. Yeah, it's basically off-screen teleporting. It's good. That's a good way of doing that. So you know, it's that Benny Hill kind of jumping back and forth between doors. So lastly, I'm going to pick 2 from Destiny, and let's say I'm going to do bonus to item drops because I'm a character who is very much contingent on like, items. So let's go items, and that'll be 1 energy point to reroll keywords. Okay. And I'll explain how the keyword rolling stuff is useful in a minute here. And then, okay, yeah, I probably have to go with this. If it's probably my favorite. Fates Be Kind. This one is really useful if you want to play a character who isn't inherently powerful, or if you wanted to like kind of OP your thing. Anytime that you or another character rolls a critical fail or a critical success, you can add 1 to your fate stat. This includes enemy rolls. Anytime there is a critical whatsoever, you gain a fate point. I took this once with a character who didn't seem particularly powerful, and then by the end of that session, I had actually saved up 12 fate points because we kept critical failing. And then it turns out at the last possible second, when we were all about to die, I just dropped 12 extra dice on the table and was able to like OP kill the final boss in like one go. It's pretty ridiculous. What do you mean by how do you view the customizations?
I think they want to know where they can see.
Oh, you would like to be able to see them right now as you're doing your own character? Is that what you mean? If you give me just a moment to finish up mine, I will go through this with you. Please be kind.
Do we have a version of that on the site?
We do. I do have a digital copy of the basic rules. I don't have it on the site right now, but I will put it on the same URL that you see here at the bottom. If you want to grab that between now and the session that Sal's running later, be able to quickly go through and make a character. I will also scroll through and show this bigger afterwards. Just so you know, the digital copy that I'll be posting to the website is the one that we gave away earlier on during the quarantine and stuff like that, just for people that have like something to play. It's got a stripped down version of the rules. It's the URL that's right under my logo here, the ringtailcafe.com/Toonpocalypse. So going through, we've got, thank you, Glenn. It's the URL that Glenn just shared. It's not up there right now. I will do it as soon as I get off of this panel, and I will upload that. It'll just be at the bottom with like the printable stuff. Okay, so I've got my customizations, my power set customizations. I'm going to try and go through this quickly. Here, this section of the book, it's just the power sets all in one place, if you want to see them. So next is perks. Everything you've seen up here is my character. Perks are like an add-on to the character. There are 4 types of perks in the system right now. There is vehicle, mentor, base, and companion. And basically, it's just some advantage, something that you want your character to be able to use. There may be times and situations in which the moderator dictates, oh, hey, yeah, you don't have access to your vehicle right now, or hey, you know, obviously you're not in your base at the moment. So it is basically meant to be a sometimes useful item. And again, just like before, what we're going to do is we're going to pick 1, 2 customizations, and then if we want a hindrance to sort of make it unique for role playing, but also to give myself a 3rd customization. So I'm going to go ahead and do vehicle, and I'm going to go ahead and just swap my screen sizes here for a second. Oops. Just to make this a little bit easier for you guys to see and read. So I'm going to take a vehicle customization, and I'm going to call it the Enigma Machine vehicle. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to pick 2 customizations. Oh, yeah, thank you. Sal reminded me that vehicles have 20 health points. Okay, and my customizations that I want to pick for this are, let's say, extra durable, because I really don't want to have my machine get broken down or ruined. So that's going to give me 10 extra health points for my vehicle. So I'm going to switch that to being 30. And then I'm going to pick passengers and cargo. By default, the vehicle is assumed to have a maximum of 2 occupants and enough space for those characters. I want to be able to have way more room because we've got a group of 4 people. So I'm going to go with passengers and cargo as my second customization. Now, I kind of really like the idea of giving the mystery vehicle some kind of sensors. So I'm going to take that, but then I'm going to also have to take a hindrance. Yeah, let's go with distinct. So in the case of distinct, your vehicle is very obvious and cannot be hidden, obscured, or otherwise, mistaken for something else. Really good examples being something like the Batmobile or the Ecto-1 or anything like that where, you can't really hide this, so don't even try. All right, so lastly, for generating a character, we're going to need to make our special attacks. Yeah, that's why I call it the Enigma machine. So, pardon me 1 second. Sorry, I definitely need my coffee there. Okay, so without getting too far into how the system itself works, one of the things where we wanted to do with this is, you ever notice that in cartoons, characters just suddenly somehow seem to have an ability that they didn't seem to have before? Just all of a sudden one day, hey, how come Sailor Moon has this attack that I've literally never seen Sailor Moon use before, kind of thing. We kind of wanted to replicate that sort of feeling of Saturday morning cartoons where the character can evolve and grow as time goes on. So we want characters to be able to sort of spontaneously come up with new abilities. So in terms of attacks and spells in this system, attacks and spells work exactly the same way. Spells just have like additional effects, which I would have covered if we had made a character who had magic. All it really means is you get to roll from a chart that gives it a special effect. So when you start your character, by default, you get 1 ability for free. But later on, you can generate any abilities on the fly. Oh, you know what? I absolutely forgot. I skipped one thing. So notice that it says zone up there with my character. You are free to play out this system in any setting you want, but the default setting that this game is supposed to take place in is a world where all the Saturday morning cartoons got mashed into one big weird world, and they're why are you going crazy, puppet? They're sort of existing in the same place, and madness ensues. So in this weird world that has been mashed together, in this weird world that's been mashed together, there are sort of major zones and regions that characters come from. And those major zones are Retrotopia, which is a land where things are somehow super advanced, but also super anachronistic at the same time. Think of things like He-Man or steampunk or weird crap like that. Yeah, retro future, basically. There's the U zone, which is your radioactive sewers and your fallout wastelands and all your post-apocalyptic Mad Max kind of zones. Rainbow Heart Sparkle Land, which is the kind of places you'd find things like Care Bear. Yeah, I love the Teenage Mutant Axolotl. My friend who did a lot of the art is an axolotl, and he wanted to be a mutant. Yeah, it's your the Rainbow Heart Sparkle Land is where you would find your Care Bears, your My Little Ponies, your like Rainbow Bright, stuff like that. Space Portalis is your hyper futuristic sort of Star Wars, Star Trek, Transformers, yeah, things like that. Dinosauropedia is the place where you would find like giant jungles and wildlands and things like that. you only pick one zone to start with, but there's things you'll be able to do later on that will adjust keywords, and I'll explain why in a second. And then there is Toonville, which is your obvious Bugs Bunny, Roger Rabbit, Bendy and the Ink Machine, kind of all that jazz. And then the last zone is the Tower, which is just sort of a catch-all for anything that doesn't fall into the others. So here's where this gets crazy. So let's pick a zone. Okay, so to answer your question really quickly, no, not everyone on your team has to be from the same zone. That is, you just pick one of the 6 to begin with. You can work with your moderator to create a new zone that doesn't exist in the book right now, but it would take a little bit extra work because they're going to have to make a chart like the one I'm about to show you. However, lots of the campaigns do that. Without spoiling anything, the campaign that is happening later today is going to have a couple unique rolling zones. So, what should we make the zone for our Jinkies character? I'm just going to go ahead and, for the sake of this, I'm going to make her from Sparkle Heart Rainbow Land. Okay, so that's just the zone that she woke up in. She woke up in this Sparkle Heart Rainbow Zone when she found herself on this world. Okay. Now, remember how before I said that enemies basically come into one of 3 types, the body, mind, spirit thing? When you are fighting against an enemy, the amount of dice that you roll is a combination of your special attack and your stat. So I'm going to make an ability real quick, and then I will explain in a second afterwards what it means. So I'm going to make a level 3 special ability. They come in levels 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to make it a body stat. So let's go with body. Okay, and then the keywords I will generate in a second. But in this particular scenario, if I am facing off against a body type enemy, I will get to roll 3 dice because of the level of the ability and 1 dice because of my body stat. So in this particular case, I will get 4 dice to roll for my success and stuff like that. If I were to make this a mind stat, oops, pardon me. If I were to make this a mind stat instead, I would get to roll a total of 6 dice when using this ability because I have a mind stat of 3. Now, you can't use an ability against an enemy that doesn't match their type. It's sort of the rock, paper, scissors thing that I was mentioning before. You will be able to get abilities that you can use against other enemies. It's good to have a diverse, have a body attack, have a mind attack, have a spirit attack. But you start with one for free. And when I say free, it just costs energy later in the game to create additional ones. So here's where it gets weird and crazy. So I'm going to do a body stat, and I'm going to make a level 3. And pardon me for 1 second. I'm going to pull up my dice roller. And okay, so it's a level 3, so I'm going to get 3 dice, and let's roll. Doop. Okay, so I got a 2, 4, and a 1. Okay, so what's going to happen is I get to pick from this. Oops, where's my window? I get to pick from this chart a 2, a 4, and a 1. So the keywords are just used to for that rock, paper, scissors type thing that I was talking about before. Pardon me, sorry. I tabbed out of a window and confused myself. So in this particular case, I'm going to get to pick a 2, a 4, and a 1. So I can pick winged, dessert-based, or glittery for my 2. I can pick floating, huggable, or heart for my 4. And I can pick sunshine, stuffed toy, or glowing for my 1. And I don't necessarily have to pick from 3 different tables here. They're just sort of a breakdown and split. So, for example,
just a quick thing. If it says a stuffed toy or dessert based or anything like that, you actually fill it in with whatever.
Yeah, if I don't know if you guys could hear Sal behind me, but he was saying if it says dessert-based or stuffed toy, you get to pick what that is. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead and make my attack. My attack is going to be a huggable, glittery, stuffed toy. So I'm going to go to my character, and my attack is going to be my huggable. Oops. Sorry, tabs. Blah, blah, blah. Huggable, glittery, stuffed toy. Okay, so what that really means there is that is my 3 keywords for that attack. And what's going to happen is I can use this attack against any body type enemy, but if the enemy happens to have a weakness to any of my keywords, which is generated when the moderator creates the enemy, I'm actually going to get bonuses to attacking them. So I can use this ability, Huggable Glittery Stuffed Toy, against any enemy who's a body type. But if it just so happens that this enemy is weak against glittery type things, I'm actually going to get +2 to my attack. So it's kind of a just find and match the keywords as you're playing. And it's going to be pretty ridiculous. Now, let's say we had done this differently, and let's say instead of a 1, I had rolled a 6. Yeah, they actually stack. So if an enemy was weak against huggable glittery things, I would actually get +4. So let's say I had rolled a 6 instead of a 1. It says here, it says player keyword. I would actually get to pick one of my own keywords to put in there. And when you use an attack that has your own keyword, it's an automatic +2. So, for example, let's say I had gotten my 6, and the order in which you pick your keywords doesn't matter. So I'm just going to put it in the one that's the most verbally pleasing. So I'm going to go mysterious. I can't spell. Mysterious, huggable, glittery, and then I just pick a word to finish the attack. Mysterious, huggable, glittery backpack. And that's not actually a keyword. It's just a description for myself. So whenever I use this attack, I swing my backpack at the character with this mysterious, huggable, glittery backpack that I got from a stranger one day in a shadowy alley. I shouldn't be in shadowy alleys. So because this ability has, you could be, you don't have to be. I'll be putting up stuff so you guys can make characters for Sal's panel after mine. Just go to the URL that's on my icon here, the Toonpocalypse one. That's true. I should be in Mysterious Allies solving mysteries. So, but because this has my my keyword of being mysterious, anytime I use this attack, I'm going to get an automatic +2 when I use it. So if I use this and it has my keyword and the enemy was weak against this keyword, I would actually be getting a +4. So here's how this works. I now have this level 3 attack, and I can use 4 dice, 3 for my level of attack and 1 for my stat. Later on in the game, if we're playing and I'm like, oh crap, I'm trying to fight against this spirit type enemy, but I actually don't have a spirit type attack, I can actually generate a new spirit attack. The level of your spell or ability dictates how much energy it costs. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a level 1 spirit attack over the course of the random scenario. I want to make it spirit type. Oops, spirit type. And then I'm going to roll 1 dice, and I got, let's say I got a 3. So I get adorable. In this case, you'll see I only got 1 keyword because it's only a level 1 ability. So I have my adorable, I don't know, my adorable purse. Okay, and purse isn't actually a keyword; it's just a descriptor. So I have 2 abilities now, and I can use this one, the body one, against body type enemies, and I can use the spirit one against spirit type enemies. Again, it's a very simplified system. It's got sort of a rock, paper, scissors thing going on. It's meant to be really light, really easy.
When generating an attack, you actually use an additional energy.
Yes, and Sal pointed out, if you're creating an attack that you didn't have previously, it costs 1 extra energy point. So anytime I use my body stat ability, it's going to cost me 3 energy points. Anytime I use my adorable purse, it's going to cost me 1 energy point. If I really wanted to create a new ability and it was going to be a level 3 ability, the first time I make that ability, it's going to cost me 4 points. And there's some abilities over the course of the game that let you mitigate those costs and stuff like that. So lastly, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. So get rid of those. And I'm going to pull this back. So you start with 1 ability for free that you don't have to spend any energy points on, but later on in the game you can just generate more. So lastly, items. Items work exactly the same way as spells and attacks, except that they don't cost energy points to use. Most characters don't start with items, but a few of them do, like organizational characters often have them. And I happened to pick something in the beginning of creating my character, the Chekhov's gun. I actually get to go ahead and generate an item. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to roll for this, and then I was like, okay, let's pretend I got a level 1 spirit type, and I picked winged. Wait, no, sorry, sunshine. Sunshine rocket. Okay, so that's my item, and to go earlier in the list, there's a list of things that items can do. Where are my keywords, zones, power sets?
There's a weapons and items.
Yeah, there's a weapons item section at the end. Oops. Too far. All right, so I created an item, and I'm going to go ahead and give it, let's say I got 4 and it was a positive zone keyword. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself an additional keyword for that, adorable. Now, apologies for shortening this last little bit. I was trying to hurry and make sure I stay and I don't overrun my panel. So here is a quick version of doing that same thing again. So for everyone who missed the beginning of this, I'm going to go through this, and we're going to make 1 more character, and I'm going to show you how quick and easy this can be. So let's go ahead and turn off our just an ordinary tune character, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do a character from one of my comics, and I am going to... All right. So let's see how quick we can do this. So I'm going to give her stats. You do a 3, a 2, and a 1. So I'm going to go 2, a 1, and a 3. Okay, that's a 4. I can't numbers. Okay, and then health default to 20, energy default to 15, and fate 1. Okay, name, crystal, species, space unicorn. Okay, positive keywords are going to be heart and sparkles. No, I'm actually in Photoshop. I have
Pick a secondary keyword. Just because sparkles already on the chart.
yeah, I'm gonna. Sal pointed out that sparkles is already on the chart, so I'm going to use heart and 80s. Anytime I encounter something that's 80s. And to answer, no, I'm using Adobe Photoshop. I have the Creative Suite, and that's actually how I'm animating my little character with one of the programs in that. So Archetype, I'll make her a chosen one. Okay, and I'm going to make her from Rainbow Heart Sparkle Land. And then my customizations, let's jump to chosen one. Okay. My customizations, I'm going to pick critical hit. So when getting a critical hit, you gain an additional die of damage on top of the normal damage. So she's going to be a very combat heavy character. So customizations, critical hit, and let's give her super mode. So anytime I spend 2 energy with this character, I will get an additional dice to do my rolls. And I'm going to skip doing hindrances on her, and then I'm going to go to my power sets. So for combat, I'm going to go ahead and pick, let's see, Riposte. Oops. Which allows me to, on a successful defense roll, I get an additional attack. And let's do Airborne Strike, which allows me to leap towards an enemy and makes any successful attack actually automatically a critical. So she's going to be a very combat-heavy character. And then the magic abilities, I'm going to take Attack Magic, and I'm going to take Overclocked Magic, which is going to allow me to use a special attack. I may roll an extra die and select which die I want to use. So she's going to be very like min-maxed here. I mentioned magic before. The short version of magic is basically just adds an effect to your special attacks, which we'll see in a moment. And then power sets for chosen one. I'm going to take Plot Armor. Gives me immunity to effects from enemy attacks. I still take damage, but I just don't get the effects like lingering and radius or bounce. And how about the Prophecy, which basically gives my character a +4 bonus in charming situations. They're basically a well-known, celebrity type character. So jumping down to perks, I'm going to pick Companion, because how can I not choose taking Companion for this adorable little robot 8-bit? So I'm going to take my perk as being 8-bit. 8-bit Companion. Companions start with 12 health points. And for his abilities, I'm going to take Follow Orders, which, if you know the comic, the character definitely doesn't. But basically, that allows me to actually instruct the character as if they are a secondary character of mine, and they can actually do things like, hey, go grab me that thing, or stay here and hold the button down, or things like that. The character is actually willing, compliant, and able to assist you in these kinds of things. And then I'm going to also take Too Cute. The Companion just makes that much more convincing, and how could you be lying when you have a cute friend like that? So in addition to my previous +4 for being the character in the Prophecy, I actually have the Companion, so I'm actually going to get +8 to my rolls when I'm trying to convince people. I am absolutely, totally, 100% believable, you guys. So lastly, I'm going to take my special attacks for my character, and since I'm from Rainbow Heart Sparkle Land, I'm going to roll on that chart. So Rainbow Heart Sparkle Land, I'm going to go ahead and roll, and I'm going to give myself a level 3 attack, and I'm going to make it Spirit because I want it to be my most powerful stat. And I got 3 words, and I got floating cloudy rainbow. So I'm going to go floating cloudy beam. And because I took Attack Magic, I actually get a special effect, and I'm going to go with pretend that I rolled this. I got Lingering, which means it's going to do additional damage to enemies every turn after. So you can see I went through this one super quickly, but it's sort of a, again, Chipotle, choose your bowl, choose your meat, choose your whatever. You can make characters really fast if you are familiar with the abilities. And the system is really centered around playing and having fun and being ridiculous rather than being too worried about heavy use of stats. Stats are mostly just used to kind of keep things fair and even and interesting. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. Sal's actually going to be running a game of this later today. What time, Sal?
I believe it's 4.
I believe it's at 4 o'clock, but double check the schedule. It's going to be the Toonpocalypse campaign. If you go to the URL that I have listed here under my character icon, you can download character sheets. You can I'll put the quick and easy version of the rules. But if you also want to support the system, we actually have the book for sale, and it is actually on sale for the next week or so in honor of the convention. So thank you guys all for joining me. I hope this sounded weird and fun and interesting. We tried to make a really quirky little system here. And I hope that you guys will join Sal as he plays some of this. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Glenn. All right, so if anyone's got any questions, just let me know. And remember to check the URL, and you can see the quick setup version of the system. All right, and that is my time. And thank you to the mod for letting me run a couple minutes over and being on hand in case I needed something. Thank you, guys.